The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and may not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the listener. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Chat GPTs and AI technologies were not used or harmed in the creation of this podcast. This podcast is 100% human-made by me, your host. Hi, hello, my name is Melanie, and this is Under the Moon Paranormal Presents Ohio Legends, the podcast that's brought to you under every full moon about the Buckeye State and the strange and bizarre happenings that surround Ohio. So join me, won't you? This episode is brought to you by January's full moon. On January 3rd, the full moon occurs in the sign of Cancer, awakening an urgent interest in our domestic world. This full moon can bring a sudden need or desire to connect with our families and our own hearts. Something is exposed or illuminated, prompting us to get in touch with those in our personal lives that we may have been neglecting or putting off. This is a time to clear up past patterns that have been holding us back from personal fulfillment, particularly those are the home or family centered, or that revolve around our work-home balance and attitudes toward comfort and responsibility. So that's your full moon report for January 2026. Happy New Year. So this episode, I'm doing a little cluster episode again, and we're going to talk about strange and bizarre things that happened in Ohio. So just as always, as every new episode, we have some ghost hunting equipment running in the background. We have a cat ball. We have a K2 meter. We have a Flux 2 device response, or I call the Boosabee, and we have the REM pod. So keep your eyes if you're watching on Spotify. So we're going to start with some quirky facts about Ohio that sound made up, but not. So Ohio is the heart of it all. Ohio is shaped like a heart. So roughly around 50% of the total U.S. population lives within a 500-mile radius around Columbus, Ohio, which is the very center of Ohio. Neil Armstrong, the first person to walk on the moon, is from Ohio. Ohio has the largest Amish population in the United States. It's not all metropolitans and cities. It's a lot of cornfields and horse and buggies. There's like over 80,000 members of the Old Order Amish in Ohio. So here's a little fun thing from this. The first police car was an electric wagon used by the Akron Police Department in Akron, Ohio. In 1890, it could reach up to 16 miles per hour and travel 30 miles before its battery needed recharged. So more U.S. presidents were born in Ohio than any other state. Ohio is known as the birthplace of presidents. Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James A. Garfield, Benjamin Harrison, William McKinley, William H. Taft, and Warren G. Harding, all the hailing from the Buckeye State. Ohio is the only state flag that is not shaped like a rectangle. It's like a pennant. The Ohio flag is a triangular swallowtail flag, the only non-rectangular U.S. state flag. We just had to be different, didn't we? Because we're Ohio. Oberlin College was the first interracial and co-educational college in the United States. The Ohio rock song of Ohio is Hang On Sloopy. So Hang On Sloopy for the Ohio State University Marching Band in 1965. This guy wrote it for 4 hours after his mentor, Professor Charlie Spohn, made a late decision to include it in the band halftime show celebrating the arts on October 9th, 1965, and it was an instant hit. Ohio is also known for the largest collection of troll dolls. Yep, sure is. The first concrete street in America, which is still in use today, was poured in 1891 near Logan County Courthouse in Bell Fountain, Ohio. It's a nice little street. You should really check it out. Pictures on Google Maps. It's pretty cool. Bellefontaine is also home to the world's shortest street. Ohio is home to the largest serpent effigy in the world. The Great Serpent Mound is about 1,348 feet long, 3 foot high, prehistoric effigy mountain located in Peebles, Ohio. So those are some quirky facts about Ohio. So Ohio's been in the news lately. If you watch world news, this is not just local. This made it world news. Dead vultures removed from Ohio school grounds. Bird flu suspected. This happened in Amelia, Ohio. State wildlife crews removed more than 70 dead vultures from the athletic fields near St. Bernadette School on a Friday. days after neighbors expressed concerns from a bizarre sight. A spokeswoman with Ohio Department of Natural Resources said the death may be caused by a highly pathogenic avian influenza known as bird flu. Not concerning at all. Some of the earliest sightings occurred on a Monday, with photos showing dead birds scattered along the athletic grounds near a shelter. A neighbor who lives nearby said she could see the birds from her kitchen window. She said it's really bizarre. They've been back here in the ball fields for over the top of the fencing area. Even though the dead birds have been collected, questions remain about any lingering impacts. Some people say we have kids, we have animals. I don't know how transmutable this is. And it's a really, really small town, and it's a really bad look, one person said. Pierce Township Fire Chief Craig Wright said he spent days pushing the Department of Agriculture to handle the incident. He said, we worked diligently to get them out just because it's a wildlife issue and it's their area. The chief said that as a fire department and township, we don't deal with wildlife. So we just didn't know what to do. We didn't know how. Interesting. Additional testing is underway to determine if bird flu is impacting other wildlife. So since 2024, 71 human cases of bird flu have been confirmed, including one reported by Ohio's Department of Health in February of 2024. So it just says to avoid contact with the dead birds. Not concerning at all. So if you remember back in, I want to say 2023. Yeah, 2023. We made the news. Again, it was all over TikTok. The Ohio train derailment situation at about 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time on February 3rd, 2023. Southern freight train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, about a quarter mile from the Ohio-Pennsylvania state line. Okay. Of the 150 train cars, about 50 cars were affected by the derailment. The rest were uncoupled and removed from the scene. 20 of the affected cars contain hazardous materials, including vinyl chloride, ethylene glycol, and a couple others that I definitely can't pronounce, but I'm going to add a link to all the updates from the Environmental Protection Agency website because they have updates from every month since this happened about what they are doing to help East Palestine, Ohio. Okay, some cars caught on fire. Some cars spilled their loads into adjacent ditches that fed into Sulphur Run, a stream that joins Leslie Run, which eventually empties into the Ohio River. So this water got everywhere. Every little stream that connected to where these two split off from wherever to get to the Ohio River, that stuff was in the water. Fish died. Lots of wildlife were sick, okay? Since arriving, the EPA has continuously testing the air and around East Palestine. They've used state-of-the-art equipment and are making daily runs, which they are. They have monthly updates. They are still cleaning this up to this day, and it's been almost 3 years. The state of Ohio, in partnership with local health agencies and local public water systems, have been testing the water. The Columbia County Health District continues to test private water wells. EPA has also issued several orders to Norfolk Southern to instruct them to carry out various actions to hold the railroad accountable and for associated cleanup costs. So the EPA is definitely doing what they need to be doing. So I'm going to read you one of the latest updates from 2025. This is from July 2025. As a restoration nears completion, a cleanup area of the derailment site is shrinking. Crews recently completed a reassessment of Sulphur and Leslie runs to check for any remaining oily sheens to determine what additional cleanup may be needed. Restoration activities, including the north side of the tracks near Brave Industries, are ongoing. The National Institute of Environmental Health, CNIEX, issued a research opportunity announcement for organizations to participate in a study to address the immediate or long-term health concerns from exposures to chemicals released during the train derailment between the U.S. and Norfolk Southern, including creating a community health program to provide medical monitoring and mental health issues. Groundwater, surface water, and drinking water continue to be regularly sampled. So the EPA has concerns for long-term damage from the chemicals that were spilled into the water and were exposed into the air. Okay, I'm hoping I can find it, but I'm going to put a picture right here of that famous picture that made people think, oh my God, are you all okay in Ohio? No, we're not okay in Ohio. This place is weird. Very weird. but it sounds like the EPA is on the case. But that's not the only trail derailment that has happened in Ohio, okay? So like I said, I'm going to add a link to the EPA website so you guys can check out all the updates about the East Palestine train derailment. But the train derailments happen very regularly. That one was just very big, okay? So from the railroad comes some strange noises. So this happened in East Palestine. Let's go down to Cincinnati, okay? Here's a strange article that I found I'm going to read. So there's a mystery sound that has been stumping people in several local neighborhoods in Cincinnati. The sound that has been echoing across parts of Cincinnati for weeks. The noise has become so loud that some residents say it's quality of life issue, while others are not taking it seriously at all. As darkness sets in, the sounds seem to surface. We are hearing this siren-like quality noise, whirring, oscillating, going up and down, said Sean Harold, who contacted Local 12 in hopes of getting to the bottom of it. The noise has been perplexing people on North Side, Clifton, Camp Washington, and beyond. He said, I feel like it's definitely a foreign sound. Some nights it would be a little louder, some nights it would be quieter. And this person, Elijah Harold, says, it kind of stresses me out because I don't know what it is. It's kind of scary. Hundreds of people weighed in on social media speculating about what the sound could be. Some include a Yeti in Mount Airy or a ghost in Queensgate or Bigfoot crying or beefing with the Loch Ness Monster. Yep, that's how people take things around here. Not that seriously. Okay, and because the last episode is streaming tonight on Netflix. Okay, so besides for the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot beefing, or even a kraken being released into the Ohio River, which is probably possible, others believe it's biblical trumpets of divine communication or prophecies for the end of times, and some are making the Stranger Things connection, including demigorgons or the upside down bleeding through. You be the judge. The source sent a record of what they say is the sound and claims that it's coming from an older trim engine that needs repaired on the railroad. They say the engine does not leave a Queensgate railroad yard because it's used to push the pull rails. So it's used to push other cars. And it's revving loudly during heavy hauls. Whatever the source, people who hear the noise night after night expressed hope that it will stop soon. The tipster said crews in the rail yard have previously reported the engine because of the noise and believes it's going to be fixed. However, a spokesperson for the rail yard shared the following statement. I am not to substantiate the rumor of the suspected locomotive that is the source of the noise described. Locomotives are not left running unattended for extended periods, and equipment requiring maintenance is handled through established operating or mechanical protocols. So it sounds like it might not be this locomotive that everybody's blaming it on. Let me know what you think in the comments about the strange noises at the rail yard. Is it a railroad car, or is it a Yeti, or is it the Demogorgons? Who knows? It's Ohio. It could be anything. So, strange news in Ohio. That's the theme, right? Here we go. Here's a spooky one for you, okay? So, back in 1954, a study was conducted at Ohio State University on whether a human hybrid could be created from DNA from humans and apes. Since this type of research was considered taboo, it was conducted in a secret. In 1958, scientists had successfully created embryos from samples from humans and chimpanzee donors. How do you get a chimpanzee to donate? Each embryo was planted in 2 separate wombs, which was carried to full term till healthy babies were born. The babies were named Adam and Eve, and they were transferred to a secret research facility in southeastern Ohio, where they were raised. They learned to use utensils for eating as well as other tools. There was an attempt to teach them to speak. They actually responded well to this training and learned to depend on their human caregivers. In 1960, the state took over the project in Guernsey County and was intended to create a dam for water reservoir for the city of Cambridge. The state began purchasing all the land in the area, nearly 20,000 acres, mostly through domain, and named it Salt Fort Lake Park after a creek that fed newly constructed lake. Okay? Still with me? All right. In the mid-1960s, the research team began working with Adam and Eve, decided that they should continue their training in a more natural setting, So they took both into the area now known as Salt Fork Wildlife Area. The researchers set up a camp in the woods where they could observe a pair in this natural environment. Again, the observation period went well with the pair, and they were taken around on walks in the woods and taught about nature and the creatures that lived there. They learned how the birds built nests and other animals took shelter. They were shown what plants were edible and which ones were not. Basically, they were taught how to survive on their own if they had to. So after a few months, the pair was allowed to roam around in the area on their own. Points of observation had been set up to see how they reacted to being on their own. Eventually, on one of the solo outings, the pair mated and Eve became pregnant. She gave birth to a male baby. All was going great with Adam, Eve, and their newborn offspring. Their caregivers kept constant watch over them as a young one grew. He was developing well and picked up on human mannerisms just like his parents had, okay? So in 1972, the young one was removed from the parents to see how he would do on his own. His range was expanded and allowed to roam at will. He did quite well. He would always return to caregivers and bring them little gifts, things like shiny stones, that's kind of weird if you've asked me. So one day a group of hunters discovered him and ultimately started shooting at him because that's what people do in Ohio. One bullet struck him through his thigh. He screamed out in pain and immediately attacked the man who fired the shot. He then fled deep into the woods and no one had contact with the creature since. He has though been heard calling out to his parents and caregivers. If he's still out there living a solitary life and searching for the ones who actually cared for him. Where did his parents go? Like, is this the origin story of Grassman? Who knows? I found that in an article called Haunted Hills in Ohio. It just says this. I just thought it was really strange and I had to share it. Strange news. That's what we're doing here today. Okay, so that concludes our meat and potatoes for the whole month of January. Let's do a couple of listener submitted stories. If you have a spooky story that happened in or around Ohio, or you have something so bizarre that you just want to share it with the world, I will read it here on the podcast. All you have to do is send me an email to underthemoonparapod@gmail.com and I will read your story on the show. Okay, this first one is titled The Uninvited Guest by Mike. My friend Shane just began renting out a house in Ohio. He got it at a really good deal, and I admit I was a little jealous at first because I had been looking for a place to live in myself. Just since starting college, while I was helping him move in, we noticed all the neighbors kept watching us. We thought it was kind of strange, but then we figured that they were just surprised to see a college kid renting out a fairly nice house on his own. A couple of nights later, we had a pretty big party. After we finished unpacking everything, we got pretty smashed. I walked out into the backyard to have a smoke, leaned against the wall, and suddenly I heard someone start talking to me. I thought it was just another person from the party, so I began to talk back. I was feeling pretty tipsy and I didn't even think to look at the person. We started to talk about the neighborhood, the house, which led us to talking about a local high school down the street. The man said something to me about how he called them the winning the state championship last year. I laughed because they hadn't even been close to making the playoffs since winning the state championship was back in the 90s. Struck by how odd this was, I looked over and no one was there. I went in and told my friends, and they all just laughed and said I had too much to drink. 3 nights later, Shane called me at my apartment, frantically telling me how he woke up to what sounded like 3 men having a conversation in the kitchen. I told him to go check it out, figuring he could handle himself because he was a pretty tough guy. So he went downstairs, but nothing was there. Also, every time he leaves a message on my answering machine, even though he's alone, I can hear voices in the background as if other people were in the house with him. The landlord seems to dismiss any unusual occurrences in the house, and the neighbors haven't helped out too much either. Other than saying previous tenants seem to always move out very quickly, it's been 4 months since all this started taking place, and it still continues to this day. Wow. Sounds like there's some history there. Tell your friend Shane to look into the history of the home and see if he could find out anything. There's also a website called diedinmyhouse.com or something like that, and you can find out if anybody died in the house. This last story is called The Tapping by Lisa. It's short, so I was about 14 years old. My mom's sisters and I lived in a trailer on a rented lot. I don't know what started all of it, but there were all sort of noises in the middle of the night. I remembered one night everyone was asleep and I started hearing a tapping sound on the other side of my bedroom wall. I thought I was imagining this, but I wasn't. The other side of my wall was my sister's bedroom closet. I went in to see if they were trying to scare me, and they both were fast asleep. The tapping was still going on, so I crawled in bed next to my sister and covered my head and fell asleep. That was the first of many supernatural experiences for me. I mean, if it wasn't an animal like a squirrel or a mouse, chipmunk or something, definitely tapping is a big sign of spirit communication. Be careful. Be careful out there, everybody. I'm going to do one more short one. Because this one's from Tabitha, and it's titled The Doorknob Incident. It's like a couple of sentences long. It's a really short story. So, one night my boyfriend, his brothers, and 3 cousins were lying in bed. The bathroom is in his room, and they said that was the strangest thing that happened. The doorknob to the bathroom went crazy, twisting and turning like someone was frantically trying to open it. They knew no one was around or in the bathroom at the time, so they couldn't figure out what was causing this phenomena to occur. To date, this is the only bizarre thing that has happened in his home. Wow, the only thing? Consider himself lucky because something was trying to get in there, for sure. So if you guys like this episode, ghosts don't like this episode. Well, why not? You want me to keep going? No. Anyway, ghost hunting while podcasting. I'm trying out something here this year, guys. If you like this sort of thing, if you can see this on Spotify, let me know in the comment section on Spotify. Share this podcast with a friend that thinks Ohio is strange, and I can prove to them that it's even stranger than what they think. Okay? I hope you all had a great new year. I hope 2026 is a better year for everybody. And as always, my friends, stay spooky.